But back to the theme. You know, the overarching theme for the month is the heat is on. And I got to tell you, between Reverend Penny and the band and Susan Robertson, the heat is on. I feel it. But the title of the talk today is Hot Off the Presses. Anybody familiar with that expression? Because, you know, be careful now before you raise your hand, because that's kind of a generation that's hot off the presses. I don't think we use that very much anymore. So if you know that, you're probably of that generation, or you watch a lot of old Jimmy Stewart movies. But that expression came about because back in the day, back in like the 50s, 1950s and before, when newspaper ruled supreme, that's how we got our news. I mean, TV was in its infancy and not very many people had it, and the radio was kind of scratchy and the reception was in and out. So if you wanted to be current, to get caught up, to be able to talk rationally about what was going on in the world, you had to get your information from newspapers. And this whole industry grew out of that. And newspapers, striving to be, well, profitable and grow, they would hire reporters whose job it was to go out and get the news and bring the news that was important. And then we get to this expression because a reporter would write a story and everybody knew that you had to get people to read the story. And the way they got them to read the story was by way of their headlines. I mean, the headline had to draw you in. It had to get your attention. So, of course, you might have heard this part of the story. It came about that the more seasoned, experienced reporters would kind of take the new guys under their wing and teach them ropes, so to speak. And he'd tell them, you know, you got to have a headline to draw them in. And the headline has to be something that's unusual, that's not commonplace, something we're not used to seeing and hearing. In other words, they'd say, dog bites man is not a headache. Because that happens 100 times a day in this country, or more. So that's not unusual enough. On the other hand, man bites dog, that's a headline. Okay, that's something unusual. That's something we don't hear and see every day. So hearing this story made me think, I wonder what a headline from Ernest Holmes, the founder of our philosophy, of our teaching, the founder of science of mind, religious science, I wonder what a Holmes headline would look like. And if you're wondering, let me put it to rest, because I just happened to stop and pick up a paper on my way in. And I've got that headline. The first thing that came to mind for me was the Holmes headline. Can you read that? God discovered in man. Wow. Now, this was maybe forward thinking, unless you consider, of course, the master teacher Jesus 2,000 years ago saying the same thing, and even prior to that, the earliest philosophers in the world saying the same thing. But back around this time, 20th century, this was a pretty unusual thing to say, especially if you were a member of the established religious community. And this is not a religion, by the way, it's a philosophy. It's the truth as we know it, after Ernest Holmes synthesized through all the great teachings and all the great works, all the great religious doctrine, and came with this teaching, kind of pared it down to the truth about who we are and what we are. And it comes out like this: God is discovered in man. Because there is only God. There's not God plus something else. There's only God. So all things in existence ever and forever, eternally and infinitely, are from God. They're of God. All things, all beings, all situations, all circumstances come from the heart of God. Now, I don't want to bog down on this word God, because I know that not everybody's really comfortable with that, and I hadn't been. Candidly, I just wasn't a word that I used. And you don't have to refer to it as God. It can be spirit. It can be life, life force. It can be nature. It can be the thing itself. It can be creative intelligence, divine mind. Call it what you will. But by any name, this is the power that is responsible for the birth of everything. This is the unbegotten, the uncaused, first source of all things. And because it is, and because everything in existence must be made from God's stuff, if you will, then God is, of course, within that. I mean, if it's made of cheese, it's got a cheese content, don't you think? So, knowing that, I think it's great to know that the very stuff of which everything is made, all the way from those microscopic subatomic particles to things as grandiose as planets and solar systems and galaxies and the universe, all come from the same source. They're all made of the same stuff, and that's the same stuff that's going through me, going through you. And we're all driven and informed and energized by this same God energy. So the same energy that controls the cosmos is what courses through our veins. It's what's in us at the cellular level. It's what works in, as, and through us at every moment. God truly is within each of us. And I thought, well, that's kind of an interesting headline. But maybe we could just as easily turn that on its head, because the next Holmes headline, I think, would be something like this. Man discovered in God. Well, isn't that convenient? God's in man, man's in God. How does that work? Well, once again, there's only one. It is God. We all come from that. And because we come from that, we're not outside of that. Remember, it's a unity. There's only one. All the things combined in forever, infinitely, eternally, plus way more than that, is what this consciousness that we call God is. This is the consciousness that grounds all being. So we can never be outside of it. That's kind of a neat thing to know too. Safe and secure. We are within, not the confines of God, because there are no confines. There's no boundary to God. There is no circumference. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. And because there's no form, no shape to it, it's just pure essence, pure light, pure love. Everywhere, every being, every person, each of us is a center of that God. Wow. Can it get any better than that? We got the power of everything at our disposal. All we have to do is recognize it, open to it, surrender to that divine process. And there we are. So, man's in God, God's in man. And that's great. Isn't it? I mean, isn't that cool? But what does that mean, really? I mean, what does that mean to me and to you every day for life, for living? What's the advantage of it? What's the use of that knowledge? Are there any practical applications for this? Well, Ernest Holmes thought so, of course. He used to have a radio program back in the 1950s, and it was called This Thing Called Life. And it was really great. Now, full disclosure, I did not listen to this program back when it was being aired. For a number of reasons. One, I was pretty young. Two, I was really not religiously motivated. And again, this isn't a religion, it's a philosophy, but at that time, I couldn't even spell philosophy. So, I didn't have any reason to think I should know what the meaning of any of this would be. But I listen to them all now,
I listen to them because they're available with the advent of the internet. They're available on the web. And they're available from Centers for Spiritual Living from the archives back in Golden, Colorado. And they're easy to get a hold of. And they're tremendous. I mean, think about this. If you like this teaching, you get to tune in to this program, aired just exactly the way it was aired so many years ago. And you get to hear Ernest Holmes himself in his own voice, in his own element, really, telling the Science of Mind story. In little snippets of like 15, 20 minutes of solid, practical, how to use this advice. And he would start, well, to begin with, when if you ever listen to this, you'll hear this, but the program starts with this dramatic, huge organ music. Now, I'm going to spare you and not try to replicate what huge, dramatic organ music would sound like. But just imagine, if you will. It's kind of a precursor to, like, the Phantom of the Opera stuff. Mm-hmm. And then as the music would start to subside, the announcer's voice would come on. And the announcer would say, "There's a power in the universe, and you can use it." Minus that, there's a power for good in the universe. I'd like to just refer you back to Reverend Penny's comment about making a mistake. So, and then right after that, Ernest Holmes would come on, and he'd kind of introduce each segment, because each segment was a little bit different, but really basically it's all the same, because it's Science of Mind. And I took down one of the comments that he makes, because this is kind of generally what he would say at the beginning of each little session. And he'd say, "Friends, when you and I know our relationship to this thing called life, we shall lose all feeling of doubt and insecurity. And in their place we shall find faith and love. And we shall learn how to live successfully." Wow. Isn't that what we were just wondering? I mean, isn't that what we were just kind of asking about? We can learn how to live successfully. What a great philosophy. So it does have some practical applications. And he goes on in these talks to explain what they are. And they're the things that we know. They're the things that we know that because God abides in us and we abide in God, as all things do, that we co-create with the divine. We have that spark of the divine within us. And that is a creative force. And we co-create with the divine to outpicture a world according to the desires we'd like to have. So prior to Science of Mind, I don't know about you guys, but I just kind of got batted back and forth by women whimsy. And then when I realized that I could control the world I see around me, because the world I see around me is largely a result of the thoughts I think and the beliefs I have. And if I don't like what I'm seeing, I just simply need to change my thoughts, change my beliefs, and co-create the world the way I want to see it. So, I don't know if any of you remember or were here, but a couple of years ago we had Ken Gordon. Ken Gordon, the spiritual leader of Centers for Spiritual Living from the corporate office. And he came here and gave a talk. And I don't know. He was visiting the Southland from his home in Kelowna, British Columbia. And I don't know whether he just called and offered to show up here or whether he answered a request from somebody here to come and give us a talk. But he came and gave us a talk. And I was really pleased that I was able to do the opening prayer and the reading. Now, I never met Ken Gordon, Dr. Ken. I didn't even know anything about him. I'd only heard his name like a week or so before because he had just recently become the spiritual leader for Centers for Spiritual Living. So I didn't know anything about him. And I didn't exactly know what his talk would be like. I assumed it was Science of Mind-ish. So I thought, well,
I looked around through some books I had, and I came up with a reading from this book, Treat Yourself to Life by Raymond Charles Barker. So I did that reading, and I sat down. And then a couple minutes later, when Dr. Ken took the podium, he says, and it was true, he says, I only met Bill just minutes prior to this service. He says, but it's like serendipitous that he would choose a reading from Raymond Charles Barker. Because Raymond Charles Barker was my mentor. I thought, wow, there are no coincidences. And then he went on to relate the story about Raymond Charles Barker. So it's going to get a little convoluted. So you'll want to pay attention here. Otherwise, you're not ever going to be successful on the post-meeting quiz. So he says about Raymond Charles Barker, he says, when Raymond Charles Barker was, and a little background on Barker, and I knew a little bit about him. I knew that he was an author, a Science of Mind minister. In fact, he was the minister of the first Science of Mind church in New York City. But at this time he wasn't. He was just a young, just beginning minister. And one Saturday, the senior minister calls him up and he says, I'm really sick. I can't be there tomorrow. I'm just that sick. You've got to give this talk. So, understandably, there's a young guy, he's a little bit concerned. And so he calls up his mentor, Ernest Holmes, and he explains the situation. He says, what am I going to say? And Holmes says to him, Raymond, this is Science of Mind. We only have one talk. But in the same manner that God manifests in infinitely different expressions by way of all things and all people, so do our talks manifest differently. So it's true that each of us is unique and different. There's never been another you. There never will be another you. Still, we're all expressions of the same God. Just tell the truth as you know it. The truth of Science of Mind is that we just simply reveal the truth of each of us and reveal the wholeness, the perfection, the divinity that is within all of us. He said, you just do that, you'll be fine. So, of course, he did, and he went on to be minister for many, 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 many years. And as soon as he got done relating this story, Dr. Ken turns around and he gives his version of the Science of Mind talk. Okay? Same thing. However, I just happen, as you see, to have this book, and I want to give you a part of the reading that was that night. And Raymond Charles Barker wrote, I believe that at the center of my being, there's a power which is a joyous, creative power. Because you see, he was talking about, in Science of Mind, we don't rearrange patterns that are in our life as much as we're uncovering, we're revealing the truth, remember? So he says, I believe that my recognition of this power causes it to act for me. I now recognize it and say, come forth. Break through every obstruction with which time, space, and memory have surrounded you. Break through every pattern of the I can't, or I shouldn't, or what will happen if I do. Break through the past of background, heredity, and tradition. Joy in me, come out through me. In creative ways of good, unrestricted by my own memory and my own background. Come out and operate through me. There is a joy at the center of my being. This joy I did not create, but it created me. This joy in me is spiritual power. Wow, and it goes on, but you get the gist of it. So, knowing that's how it works, and knowing that we all have the power to access this simply by surrendering ourselves to the divine process, can we then just lean back and bask in the glow of the glory of our life as it unfolds? Here's a hint. Yes is probably not the right answer to this question. Okay? Ernest Holmes tells a story, the one I really like too, about the young boy in a foot race. And as he's going around the track, the referee's sitting there in his quarters, the judge's chambers, whatever you call it. And he notices as the boy's running around the track that he's talking to himself. Well, the young boy wins the race. And as the judge is handing him the blue ribbon, he says, "Young fella, I noticed that as you were running around the track, you were talking to yourself." And the young boy said, "No, sir. I was talking to God." And the referee says, "Really? What were you saying to God?" He said, "I was saying, God, you lift them up, I'll put them back down." That's it in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. Young boy partners with God to win race. And that story, that you could be that young boy, I could be that young boy, that is the story of all of us. We need to participate. We can, as we say in this teaching, colloquially, you got to treat and then move your feet, which just means that you've got to say what you want and then go out and make it happen. I want to close with a little more contemporary reading from Reverend Dr. Christian Sorensen, the senior minister at Seaside Center for Spiritual Living in Encinitas, and he's also the head of the Holmes Institute. He puts out this, he co-authored this with Petra Wells, Joyous Living Journal. It's 365 pages, one per day, of inspiration. Now, I have the book because I like to keep it on my desk, but I also get this emailed into my inbox every day. Every day. It's like magic. I just turn my computer on, I hear beep, and there's Dr. Christian and his words of wisdom for me that day. And speaking of serendipity that Dr. Ken was mentioning, how great was this? And I'm getting ready to kind of come yesterday to come and talk today. And in my inbox comes this. It says, "Your gift to God." Your life is God's gift to you. What you do with it, that's your gift to God. It's simply not enough to know that Spirit is the indwelling presence in your life. You must act on that fact as if you believed it to be true. You are constantly co-creating your life with the universe. Stuff happens. That's the universe. And then you get to decide what to do and how to respond. The more creatively you can respond, the less stuck you are. Even out of the negative stuff, you can create possibility. And we know, and Ernest Holmes kept reminding us, it's, again, the words of the master teacher, Jesus, faith without works really isn't faith at all. That's hope. We don't need to hope. We don't need to hope. We can plan and direct our world. So, we just fill our hearts and our minds and our souls with love and beauty and peace and the glory of God. And as we do that, we know that God works in, as, and through each one of us. And that power, that presence that comes through is what radiates forth from all of us to all of those that we meet. It's the manner in which we co-create with God the world that we want to see, a world that works for us, and a world that works for everyone. Thank you.